This is a range test for the Onewheel GT-S Series, the electric board that's under my feet. In the bottom right, we have the Onewheel app. It shows how fast we're going, how far we've traveled, and the current battery percentage. For this test, the big question is how far can I go before I run out of battery? And the answer to that question depends on many different factors. But before I list those factors, it may be interesting to note that this $3,200 board is rated to get between 16 and 25 miles of range before you'll need to plug it into the wall and charge it. I've tested this range once before, and I'll tell you, I did not even hit the lower end of that. Couldn't get 16 miles out of the board. We'll see what happens this time. Range is important to me because more than a few times I've been out riding and I've run out of battery. And in those cases, you have to either find your way out to the street and catch an Uber, or sometimes you're somewhere where a car can't access you. And in that case, you have to do the walk of shame, carrying the big, heavy 33-pound board in this case. It's not fun. I wouldn't wish it on an enemy. And hopefully for this ride, I don't have to take a walk of shame at all. Now you might say, Don, why don't you just bring your charger with you? Well, for the chargers, you have the home charger that's included in the box. And for this specific Onewheel, it is rated to get you from 0 to full in 150 minutes. Then there's the optional hypercharger. It costs $230, and it's much larger, just a physically larger brick, but it can reduce that charge time from 150 minutes to 80 minutes, which is a significant improvement. However, I just don't like to carry something so big, bulky, and heavy with me, and I'd prefer not to be charging, outside at some outlet that I discover, or, pulling into a business to do that. It's just not how I prefer to spend my time. So I like to take trips where I can get the entire round trip done, from home to wherever I'm going and back. And so I need to know what this range is for the GT-S Series so I know what to expect out of this board. One of the really cool things about this board is the high top speed. And so here you're going to hear me hit haptic buzz. And that's a safety feature that's there to let you know when you're pushing toward the limits of the board. And it vibrates the foot pad and it makes a sound encouraging you to slow down so that you don't overtax the board and get sent over the front end of it. And here with the first 10% of the battery used, we can see we made it 1.4 miles. And, for the most part, I was taking a pretty steady pace, around 20 or so miles per hour, which is not pushing it too hard for this board. It was a little bit of an uphill section, but it's a little concerning that with 10% of battery, I didn't even make it 2 miles. So what are the main factors that affect the range you should expect on the Onewheel GT-S? Well, since the primary job of the battery is to keep you balanced and upright, whenever you make that job harder for the battery, you're reducing your range. Riding uphill reduces your range. Lower tire pressure reduces your range. Wind direction can reduce your range. Lower temperatures can reduce your range. The heavier the rider is, the less range you're expected to get. In my case, I struggle to get the advertised range because I'm a heavier rider. So I'm 6'3", about 240 pounds. To compensate for that a little bit, I do ride with a higher tire pressure, and I typically choose about 24.5 PSI. When you're going downhill, as you see here, it's possible to regenerate some of your battery. So if you're braking on that downhill, that energy can get transferred into the battery. Now, with the higher speed of the GT-S Series, I actually don't mind blending in and riding along with the cars. Here, I didn't want to stay behind that biker, and so I, checked first and then got out into the street. It's funny, my mom watched my last video and she was mad at me in the family group chat saying, hey, you ride too fast and you're around these cars and they might not see you. You need to slow down, da-da-da-da-da. And so, Mom, if you're watching this video, I hear you. I love you. I'm sorry. that I'm running this red light right now and I'm in the street. I'll do better. Love you. So I'm filming these videos on the Insta360 X3, and coming up here, I kind of merge back into the bike lane, and you'll see that I'll clip the camera on this little divider here. And I'm just really glad that it didn't damage it. But we are back on track. If you take a look at the stats in the lower right, there's an interesting stat that says usage, and currently it shows 19% usage, even though we have 82% of the battery left. And that's because it's factoring in the 2% of regeneration we've done to the battery by braking while going downhill. If you've traveled to DC using Amtrak or any of the buses, maybe from New York or Boston, you've probably seen that building on the left. That's Union Station. And we're also very close to the United States Capitol building. This is a ride that I like to take. I like to just get out and go see the DC landmarks, and the Onewheel is just the perfect vehicle for making this happen. This is my first time taking this landmark ride with the Onewheel GT-S. Typically, I try this ride on my Onewheel GT. Now, you might expect a flagship product like the GT-S to be the best in every single category, but actually the battery champion in the product line is the original Onewheel GT, and that board sells for $900 less. Now, you might be asking why a board with less range costs $900 more than a previous generation board. And I would almost hesitate to call the GT a previous generation. It's just designed with different priorities than this board. So when Kyle from Onewheel talked about the GT-S, he said that this board is tuned for performance, and they actually made it for Onewheel racers. But for those of us who aren't speed demons, we'd appreciate that the torque that this board can kick out with the 113 volt system is a safer experience for riders who just want the battery's maximum efficiency to be dedicated to keeping them upright on a board that's constantly balancing you. With the GT, I grew accustomed to what the limitations of that board were, and I never felt unsafe on that board. And I think especially now with the haptic buzz system giving you a better early warning that you're about to approach the limits of the board, that board is plenty safe. And so if range is your top priority, I'd have no problem recommending the Onewheel GT over the Onewheel GT-S Series. But I will say that riding the GT-S Series and having that higher top speed is really fun. And if I don't plan to go far, I will first go and pick up my Go Fast board, the Onewheel GT-S. That's kind of how I think about the two. It's if I want to go fast, I'll grab my GT-S Series. If I want to go far, I'll pick up my Onewheel GT. There are a lot of communities in DC that get together for group rides, and one of the monthly meetups is DC Bike Party. And I tried DC Bike Party on my Onewheel GT-S Series, and since most of the riders there are on manual or electric bikes, they have a whole lot more range than we do on our Onewheels, and I definitely had to bail that ride early because I chose to take my GT-S Series. Now, had I taken my GT instead, I'd be good to go for much longer, but I bet I would still need to charge my Onewheel at some point during the ride. On the other hand, there are other group rides with the EUC, electric unicycle riders, and for them, it's so funny to see them advertise a ride and say that, you know, this is a slow ride. We're going only about like 20 to 25 miles per hour. And for that one, they have the speed and range advantage over those of us who choose one wheel. But now with the Onewheel GT-S Series, I could at least keep up for their slow rides. During this ride, I was on a Discord call with some YouTube friends, so I was flipping my phone over so I could check in with them. And you should you should make a video crafting your own using all of your photography skills. I don't think they knew I was riding the entire time I was on the call listening, but such a cool group of guys. That could be funny. Add the AI in there. All right, let me get off here. This felt like a boomer moment, turning the phone instead of flipping the camera so that they could see the Washington Monument. No disrespect to boomers. Y'all are cool. I'm getting old, y'all. So I passed the Washington Monument, headed to Lincoln. Looking at the current battery percentage, we're at 66%, and we've traveled 5.2 miles. So typically what happens is the moment you hit 50%, you're encouraged to turn around and head back home because you need just about the same amount of battery to get home, so long as on the way back you're not going uphill. And if we're on track to hit the 16-mile mark, then we'll want to see that we've traveled 8 miles at the 50% mark. We'll see what happens. So the stock Onewheel GT-S Series comes with lowboy foot pads installed. They are my favorite foot pads out of any of the others I've tried. I've had the flat kicks on my board, of course the stock Onewheel GT foot pads. I've had the Love Hump, and out of all of them, the lowboys are my favorite. They sit 5 millimeters lower, and that it gives your foot the experience of kind of being inside of a cup. And that helps you feel locked in, which is especially nice when you're going at higher speeds. The lowboy foot pads are available for sale separately. So these are foot pads you can install on a standard Onewheel GT. And maybe in the future, I'll get some for that board. So it was my target to make it here to Lincoln Memorial. And so let's take a look at the battery stats. 59% battery left. I just rode to Lincoln Memorial from home. And then there's Washington Monument back there. All right, I'll see y'all.
FollowDon! Oh my God, I'm your biggest fan!
Oh, Javier on the 2 Swift.
What are you filming out here? What's up, peoples?
Chilling, man. Yo, I'm kind of doing a GTS range test.
Cold weather range test.
Cold weather.
Oh
range
my
test.
gosh.
Yeah.
I'm mic'd up, baby. I'm live. So it's a beautiful day in DC. It's like 50, high 40s outside right now, and we're chilling. No pun intended. You see that even in the wintertime, still popping, still got tourists out like it's summertime, and but in the summertime it's like 7 times this, maybe 10 times this many people. But yeah, bumped into my good friend Don. Riding my 2 Swift, loving it to death. I've test driven the GTS. It was cool. It was cool. Yeah, man, I ain't got nothing else to say. Hope all is well with y'all. Y'all take it easy. He's filming this thing for 2 Swift, and I can't find my damn selfie stick.
I have a bunch of shorter ones if you want to borrow something.
Woo!
Wow. Activation problem in the cold. Oh.
Wow.
All right, hold on a second here, buddy. Don't play me like that. People ask about the activation sensitivity of the lowboy foot pads, and you see here I had an issue getting it started. All right, we're connecting again. All right, here we go. Feel my foot, it's on here. Oh, there you go. All right.
All right, get out of here.
Uh-huh. Good to see you, bro.
Good seeing you too, Don.
Yeah. One of the things you can do in the app to compensate for this is go into custom shaping and turn on single zone activation. And with that, only one side of the sensor needs to feel your foot in order to activate and start riding.
A little haptic buzzy.
That was the second time during this ride where I hit haptic buzz at around 24.9.
I had battery, I would climb the grass there. We had a little fun, but we have to conserve. And you know, I want to go by the fountain and explore a little bit. That'd be nice. Let's do one lap. I don't have to do one lap. I'm here. Hopefully we get home. Hopefully we get home with the available battery.
I really do feel like once haptic buzz hits and the foot pad's vibrating, I don't want to push it any further on this board. Running out 25 just doesn't seem feasible at all. And it feels irresponsible to go above that speed for me.
It's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. That's it.
Also standard on the Onewheel GT-S Series is the GT-S Series Performance Treaded Tire. And I think it's a great pairing for a board that goes 25 miles per hour because with the 7-inch width, it rides as a very stable tire, but it has enough curve to it to feel nimble when you're turning. And so I really enjoy it. I think it's a great pairing. My favorite tire experience may still be with the Enduro tire. However, I wouldn't be in a rush to switch out and move from a performance treaded to an Enduro. Points to the Enduro for being quieter, and it definitely had like a softer compound, so it just felt better to ride on. And then one negative for the Enduro is just that once you got on the edge, it did feel a little tippy in comparison to the S Series Performance Treaded. So overall, I think it's a great pairing for this board, and it's a great stock tire experience. As we made it to the Washington Monument, we hit our 50% mark on the battery. And you see it reset our trip length because I had to power cycle the board to get my foot pad to activate earlier in the ride. But we are not quite on track for hitting the 16 miles at this stage. Before we shut off the board, we were at 6.2 miles, so we can add our 1.6 miles on top of that to figure out where we are now with just 47% of the battery left over. Once I get that 50% warning, I know that I'm kind of on notice, and it limits my desire to explore. You know, sometimes when you're out riding, you'll just see something that looks cool off in a certain direction that you didn't expect to travel in during your ride when you're planning for your ride. And your ability to branch off and take on those little side quests are more limited when you're low on battery.
So my range anxiety in the winter starts at around 30%. Because I've had batteries die on me on Onewheels at 30%. I wouldn't expect that for a newer board. I don't want to take that as looks litty. I wouldn't expect it for a newer board, but a board that has more age on it, I wouldn't write it off as a possibility. And also because it's cold, even this board could die early. So definitely worry of that possibility. Surf a little bit on this rocky gravel here. Take y'all in front so we get a few things to look at. Look at me. I guess let's go this way. So now we're going uphill. This is gonna kill some battery. It's speeding up uphill.
see pedestrians here. Let's take this tight left.
German Shepherd.
There we go. Hook this on the right. Okay. Definitely have to watch out for pedestrians because they're more unpredictable than cars and dogs and people on their phones. All right, this uphill section we've conquered. All right, got some time at this light. Actually, I think I like being on this side better.
You look great on that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good evening. All right, let's make a move. People might be getting off of work soon, so traffic might increase. Foot and car traffic. Actually, here, let's see if we can do this. This would be fun if so. One day I decided to try and lower the gate going toward the Capitol building with my Onewheel, and I didn't know if it would work, but here we go. Let's see. Yep. Just so you know, your Onewheel can do that. Straight ahead, we have Union Station. And we have the light, so let's use it. Taking another detour. This is bad for battery here, but it's like the stuff you want to do when you're out riding. You want to take detours. It's bumpy, chunky. Drop it in. Wow. You want to do stuff like this, you know? Tail slapper. People walking the sidewalk. Let's see. Maybe we can get in. When the Onewheel GT was originally marketed, the launch event was called Uncharted. And I get it now, you know. You may go out and you see more than you would have seen before. You're covering more of the map. You're going out further. So the story of the Onewheel GT was a story about range and what that does for allowing you to explore. Here we go. All right. I think it's time where we can fire up the Unit 1. I think my range anxiety is active. So you have less battery to even push for keeping you upright. It was starting to get dark, so I turned on the lights on my helmet and my backpack. Here we go. Put this down right here. Taking it a little bit easy because I saw the other people out here. And then the story for the Onewheel GT-S Series, that one was called Unleashed. And so now let's use all of the power in these batteries to get a higher top speed. We're unleashing the power of the board so that you can see what 25 miles per hour feels like. Or you could see what higher torque unlocks for the way that you ride. Yeah, more traffic, so I have to be careful. I can't really push like I like to. Puppies love the Onewheel. Oh, my legs are getting a little cold and shivery. I don't know how cold it actually is right now, but it's cold. I'm wearing long johns. I should be less shivery, but shake a leg. And with the battery at 30%, we've traveled just over 10 miles now. Usually take it slow here because there's so much happening at that intersection. Can't just hit the corner at speed. Alright, so I put the turn signals on my gloves, and so I could trigger the turn signals for this helmet and my backpack from here, so you get a feel for what it looks like from the front. And here, let's show you from this side. Here's how it looks from the back. Turn signals. And I'm braking right now. I don't know if the brake lights are actually responding, because I found you have to have them perpendicular to the path of motion. It assumes you have handlebars, which obviously on Onewheels we have no handlebars. Alright, so we're back. Last push. So the helmet and backpack combo is the Unit 1 Ferro helmet, and the backpack is called the Unit 1 Torch. And the Torch app allows you to synchronize the turn signals and the experience that you get when you pair the remote with the helmet and backpack solution. Now, the thing I found is the algorithm for brake lights is dependent on you having handlebars, and handlebars that are perpendicular to your path of motion. I actually tested the Ferro with the remote pretty extensively, and I noticed that when I'm using the remote on handlebars that are angled, the brake lights don't work properly. And then, of course, for one-wheel riders, since we don't have a fixed position that the remote can sit, it also messes with the algorithm. And this is something that, though I've seen other one-wheel YouTubers cover the Ferro system, I haven't heard any of them mention this. That said, I recommend a helmet that does have lights, especially in the winter months where it gets darker sooner. Having an active safety system, and active in this context meaning drivers can see you because they see the lights on your helmet, or in this case, the backpack as well. Those things are benefits, and I absolutely recommend it as a safety measure when you're riding at night. Unit 1 does run frequent discounts, and they did give me a discount code to share with you. So if you're buying on their site, you could type FollowDon, and you'll get discounts on the Torch, you'll get discounts on the Ferro. They have an upcoming new helmet called the Aura, and all of those things you can get on discount if you use code FollowDon, and I'll put that in the description so you can check it out. Checking back in on the battery, we are in the home stretch and at 14% on the battery. That 5.7 miles that you see we've traveled so far, you'd want to add to the 6.2 miles that we rode to Lincoln. And so we're hitting just above 12 so far. And I really don't like riding my battery this low. It gives me anxiety to look down and see the little yellow on the light pad on the front. And we see that that's there now. We have the low battery warning yellow on the front foot pad. Ooh, I'm in yellow land. You see it. 12% battery left. Very close to home. It's like my side quests would be limited. Limited side quests. So I did screen record the stats so you can see exactly how far I traveled, my average speed. You'll see the graph to know how the battery was consumed. And here we are. I made it back home. 6.2 miles was exactly the number of miles to get to Lincoln, and then 6.2 back. I ended with 10% battery in the tank, and if I decided to go out and ride with that 10%, we found it got me about 1.2 miles of range. So I think we're well under 16. When I bought the board, I was thinking that the 16 would be for people who ride trails and such. So I had high hopes. I was hoping that as a street rider, I could expect at least the lower end of that range to be mine, but maybe I'd fall somewhere in the middle, but I get less than the advertised range. If you like this video and didn't watch my other commute video, then you can click or tap on the screen right over here.